Welcome back to the Win with Dice podcast, a podcast featuring members of the Win with Dice team. I'm Calvin, and I'm joined here by Ramon.
Hey guys, welcome to Win with Dice podcast. Podcast all about tabletop RPGs. Calvin and I like to take a casual approach to the hobby, so we like to talk about the games that we run and the games that we play and the cool, wonderful people we get to experience the hobby with. If this is your first time hearing about tabletop RPGs, what are you doing? Go find yourself a table and go have some fun. And if you are a player of someone's table, maybe it's your turn to jump behind the GM screen.
Indeed. So this week, we're going to get into some Pathfinder recapping. Specifically, we're going to get into some events that happened in the new Rise of the Runelords campaign that Ramon has been running that has been converted into Pathfinder 2nd Edition. It's been a lot of fun so far, and we're bringing in some new classes into an older campaign series, so it's got some interesting elements going on. But before we get into all that fun stuff, we have to get to the most important part of the show, the Win with Dice Weekly GM Tip of the Week.
It's the Win with Dice Weekly GM Tip of the Week, brought to you by me, Ramon. Alright guys, so just kind of get into it. The tip I'm going to tell you guys is that if you're adapting an older piece of material like Rise of the Runelords, at least for the first section of it, like the introductory encounters and things like that, you don't really have to change too much. It actually translates pretty well, and I find like a lot of older works, if you keep in mind like maybe not optimizing all of your turns, or maybe not putting a bunch of monsters and stuff into your encounter, like to overwhelm your players, you can really kind of allow the book to kind of just tell the story for you. You don't have to do too much background mechanical work. The numbers will just work out, so just don't stress it. Just find something that, pick up like an old book, dust it off, and just run it for your players in your new system.
Yeah, like I was saying just before we started recording, like, I think you have a lot of experience like running games and stuff, so maybe it's easier for you to adapt things in a way. But I do think this is still applicable, even if it does take a bit of time to level things out once you start going with them. But I think early stuff is largely, we are specifically talking about from Pathfinder 1st edition to 2nd edition, so that might be a more easy comparison than to like something that's between two different systems. But yeah, I can see low-level stuff making a pretty easy, direct comparison between the two.
Yeah, for sure. And like, specifically Pathfinder is really nice because as long as you're like within the bounds, the recommended bounds of like that CR level to party level area for like your monsters and encounters and stuff like that, and you do like the tried and true method of like not like overwhelming your party with action economy, you'll be fine. It is kind of like more of like a advanced tip, right? But if you are like a new GM and you've never played Pathfinder before, the older material is a good place to start. I just don't want people to get discouraged because it's in the 1st edition. The 2nd edition rules play pretty well with this book, and you can just figure out stuff pretty easy.
Yeah, if nothing else, making an encounter isn't too difficult if you have the right tools, and there are plenty of tools online that I refer back to plenty of times that you can get started with that'll, help you gauge the difficulty of a campaign, especially with Pathfinder 2nd edition.
Of course.
Yeah, it's not too hard to balance a campaign or a combat in there. Just, don't do one big enemy like I love to do.
Well, that's when you run into trouble where, you can't pull your punches. Also playing into the monsters, not strengths, but it's like theme. Like goblins are a bunch of goofy goobers. If they waste an action doing some goofy goober things, or maybe charge headfirst into certain doom, then that's fine too, right? Just play to, the monster's strengths and weaknesses to have, your players have a good time. Mm-hmm. So yeah, there you go, folks. There's your tip of the week. Don't be afraid to take older editions of stuff and put it with your new cool fancy system.
All right, well, speaking of older stuff and new systems, let's get into talking about Rise of the Runelords, a campaign that I've been looking forward to for some time. I avoided reading too much of the book because I was waiting for that game to be run for me, and now it is happening. Previously, our characters arrived in Sandpoint, and some goblin stuff went down. The characters themselves, we have a campaign with 4 players. One is Belladonna Baxter, who is a Kitsune kineticist of wood. There is Jin Groundbreaker, a human kineticist of earth. Iggy Itza, or Ignatius, a lizard folk sorcerer with an angelic bloodline, and Fiona Helnick, a half-elf champion of Desna, who was actually pretty popular in town because there is a prominent Desnan church where they do the butterfly hand signal that I guess is now a thing.
I know. Now I have to. I just did it on a whim, and now I have to find hand signals or like just ways of saying hi, with someone's appendages. For all the religions, I think I did like a crashing wave for the ocean deity.
Oh yeah.
I believe it's Gazra. I don't want to see if I remember
Yes.
there's another G god that we talked about before, but or in last week's episode that may or may not be exploded.
Oh, Gorum.
Gorum, yeah, no, it's Gazra.
Yeah.
The ocean one,
Yeah.
the wave lady or person. I don't know if they have genders. They're gods, right? They can be whatever they want.
True. So let's just get into this recap, because we, after the events of the prior session, we sort of arrived in the town of Sandpoint in the middle of a celebration that also involved the opening of this Church of Desna. And while we were all outsiders to the town, we were getting together in this space and, enjoying ourselves and introducing ourselves to each other. There was this sudden goblin attack that ran through this part of the town. They were attacking people, attacking dogs, setting fires, goblin stuff. So we managed to fight them off, and trying to figure out how to coordinate our powers and work together. But after that, we were hailed as heroes of Sandpoint.
It was super cool. I mean, I think the fight was great. First level encounters, I think, in general, are like coin flips. Either you guys kind of dominate or you get dominated a little bit. There were some scary moments, which I love Pathfinder because they present you with the scary moments more often than other games, I think. But yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, I definitely got nervous in there because I did get knocked out in that first session. I'm a little too overconfident with my stone armor.
Yeah, it's been a while since you played a character with high AC, I think.
What?
Or can get that higher AC.
We'll see. I'm sure later I'll be better at this. But in any case, we were heroes of Sandpoint, and we were resting up at the Rusty Dragon, owned by a Miko Kaijitsu, who was the innkeeper of this location at the corner of Market and Salmon. What was very fun is that the campaign book comes with a map of the town, and they've got numbered locations and street names and everything. So when we're navigating our way around, we're like, oh, this thing's down Glass Street or whatever.
Yeah, I love Sandpoint because, it's such a fantasy town in terms of it makes sense to be the things to be named what they are, right? Glass Street is where the glass works are, or that kind of simplicity, I guess I should say.
Yeah, I thought it was cool. It really helps you get into the setting, from the player perspective, to be able to look at that map and have a direct thing that you can navigate around with.
Yeah, because also streets have names. When you make your own map, actually, secret second tip, if you're making your own setting, give your streets names if you can, right? It will really enhance the whole vibe of the place.
That is something I kind of wish I did with the map that I made. Because I did make a city map for a city-based campaign recently. And I was looking at this, I was like, I kind of wish I made my streets, but I did make a pretty sizable map, so I don't know about that. I named my districts, and I think that's fine, because I'm not too, particular about, measurements.
Yeah, and I think Sandpoint's more on, the town basis. Anyways, if you have, a small town, you may have only 2 roads, I don't know. But, you can still add a little bit of flavor. Every place has, the main street, right?
True. So, yeah, we were resting up in the Rusty Dragon. Bella was hanging out with Amiko, just trading some adventuring stories. And Bella mentioned that she wanted to see the town, and specifically check out Rum Street, as we were all trying to figure out what we wanted to do during the course of that day. Iggy was going to look for some alchemic supplies. Jin had some interest in seeing if there were any other followers of Irori in town, because that's a deity that she has connections with. And Fiona was going to go check on the Desnan Church and see how things were progressing there. And we kind of all split up, and we were all doing different things. So I think I'm just gonna follow everyone's like individual plot threads, and then we'll get to the end where we all come back together. And if I miss some stuff, hopefully you remember it.
Classic, just split the party. I mean, I feel like there's a little bit of contrivances to have all the party members just kind of hang out with each other constantly, even though they have nothing to do with the scene. Just because, actually everyone's in the same room, but like the characters are not doing the same thing, right?
Yeah. I'm not sure how much of this was in the book and how much was just like stuff that you were doing, but yeah, I mean, there were reasons that we split up because we all wanted to do different things, and we ran across like different events happening at that time. It wasn't a situation where like we all had a single thing we wanted to do, so we were all traveling together, which would make more sense for us to like encounter this one thing as a group.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess we'll start with Bella, who is walking around town and went past a shop where she could catch the smell of incense and spices, displays of old magical objects, and a shopkeeper welcomes her in, where she saw like more unique items inside. I guess she was just looking for like unique magical stuff. The shopkeeper showed her this candle of inflamed passions, which apparently is supposed to ignite the spirits when lit. There was a bit of haggling in trying to acquire this candle, and in the course of that, the shopkeeper also brought out this wooden carving instead, this small wooden sculpture, something a little more unique, but it was related to some late unpleasantness. It was crafted by, I think the name was Jervis, this eccentric carver who was accused in a string of murders by the new chief of the city guard, the chief named Hemlock.
So, like, yeah, Bella found out a little bit of the story. It was actually Jarvis used to. I actually don't know. This is not a spoiler-free session about if you're gonna play in a Rise of the Runelords campaign. Don't listen to all this stuff because this stuff is like the secrets.
Oh yeah, well yeah, because we are a couple sessions in, so yeah, there may be some spoilers.
Yeah. So Jarvis actually was I think his name is Jarvis. Was a carver, a wood carver, and used to put these bird carvings in everyone's shop and buildings and stuff like that. He was very famous and very well liked by the community, but a little bit of a loner and a weirdo. And then he built his house kind of further away from everybody else because he said he wanted to be with the birds. But then there was like a string of murders, horrible murders, where people's body parts were being dismembered and stuff like that, right? So eventually the previous sheriff of the town, or I guess the town guard captain guy.
I guess sheriff.
Oh, I guess he is the sheriff. He is the sheriff. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The sheriff was his final victim, but he was able to cut them or wound them, and then the now sheriff Hadblock was able to follow him, and his posse was able to follow the blood trail back to Jarvis's cabin. First they assumed that he was the one of the victims, but turns out that he was the murderer, the serial killer that they were dealing with.
And that was some town history she was able to pick up from this shopkeeper who I guess had some of it was Jervis Snoot is the name that I had here.
Yes, it's like I think they used to call it having a snoot on your roof. Mm-hmm. But ever since they found out that Jervis was the Sandpoint killer, I should say, everyone removed it. So this item's actually kind of taboo to have because they all should have been destroyed because nobody wants to obviously harbor things from a serial killer. That's too weird, right?
Yeah, unless you're like a traveler who's passing through town and is just making a weird collection of it or whatever.
Yeah. But so Bella picked it. I think Bella purchased it actually.
Yeah, because she did bring it up later. So she did manage to make that purchase, again, after some haggling. And then later, as she was going back through town, she felt like she was being watched. And then her attention was eventually grabbed by an attractive woman by the name of Shayless.
Yes, Shayless Vendor, the hottest girl in town.
Shayless, who, recognized Bella after the events that happened like the previous day, and said that she needed help nearby in a shop that had some giant rats infesting it.
She needed a big, strong adventurer to help her out. Wink, wink.
Bella couldn't pick up on any deception or any secret plans that were being hatched, so she went along with Shayless, or Shay Shay, as she is sometimes known, into this shop and into the basement of it, where Shayless sort of suddenly embraced her and then gestured towards a bed in the basement of this shop. And they had, I guess, an encounter together, a moment together, at least for a brief period of time before Bella could hear someone coming. Her fox-like ears kind of perked up, and it turned out to be Shayless's father. So Bella quickly just, pulled herself together, greeted him with a firm handshake, trying to play along with the story that Shayless was creating. But then he suddenly gripped her hand very tightly as he realized what may or may not have been happening. Bella did manage to smooth things over with a bit of persuasion, a bit of lying, and managed to slip out of there, sort of evading Shayless, though receiving a wink from her as Bella departed. So just encountering some of the local townsfolk, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, Shayless, yeah, she's a bit of a problem.
I noticed. Although I think Bella was kind of avoiding Shayless a bit, certainly in the next session.
Yeah, which, I mean, a woman's scorned, I don't know. I have to figure out how Shayless or Shay Shay feels about that. She doesn't really like getting turned down, so we'll see what will happen. But I think after that, we moved on to somebody else, right?
Yeah. Again, these things happen in certain chunks as you were cycling around people. So I'm just doing everything in this is what happened during this person's day. So yeah, as you're cycling through, we went to Jin, who was looking for a monk of Irori. So Jin's whole thing is that she grew up in a monastery dedicated to Irori, and she took very easily to the martial arts stuff, the physical stuff, but she didn't have a whole lot of, I guess, focus and discipline. And after her kineticist powers emerged, she caused some damage, and she just, at that point, she decided to go out and explore and try to figure out her powers and try to learn more from other Auroran monks and the people at her monastery. Some of them were kind of happy to be rid of her because she was a bit chaotic, I guess. I don't know. I'm still figuring out Jin's character, to be honest. I kind of came in hoping she'd be this cool fighter type, but now she's kind of becoming a nerd, so I think she's kind of just becoming me because I don't know, she likes to I was thinking she wouldn't be very interested in learning stuff, but I think her problem is just focus. I think she's perfectly happy to get into a topic. She just doesn't like sitting still.
Yeah, she's more of a dork than a nerd in my opinion.
No. She was out looking for another follower of Aurori and ended up at the House of Blue Stones that was currently being operated by Sable Sorn. As she was being introduced to the location, Jin accidentally bumped into a shrine dedicated to Sable's father, who apparently had passed away recently. Jin tried to, she bumped into it, it was about to, fall, some of it was about to fall apart. She tried to stop it. She tried to catch something that was about to fall into the ground, and in doing so, she just kind of ended up summoning a stone that pierced through the whole thing and just made it worse. Though Sable was kind enough to still let Jin use the services of the temple, where Jin was able to either hang out or do some research or some practicing of moves. So that was sort of Jin's morning, but then later in the day, she came across Aldern Foxglove, who apparently took a liking to her during the course of the fight yesterday. Aldern appeared and asked Jin if she wanted to go boar hunting. Jin, totally oblivious of what Aldern's intentions were, just asked if the rest of the gang could go and hang out. Aldern, he kind of said that he meant for it to be just the two of them. And I think at that point somehow Jin and Iggy's things had intertwined, because I think Jin went back to the Rusty Dragon for a bit.
Well, so I think this conversation actually happened later in the day, I guess, because
is that what it was?
Maybe sometimes you get when everybody was hanging
Oh yeah,
out
no, you're
together.
right. It was because stuff happened the next day. Yeah.
So yeah, we're kind of mixing up 2 days together. But Jin went to the meeting point to get horses so they can go boar hunting. Aldrin did invite the whole party, but just really wanted Jin to be there because, low-key wanted to bring her on a date. So he was very much hoping that people were not going to show up. And they very much did not because hijinks ensued.
Yeah, it was the next day that Bella was involved with Shayless, and yeah, the next day in the morning, Jin was waiting around for other people to show up. Iggy in particular had said like he was interested in joining, but he was caught up with other stuff, which we'll get into. So eventually, with Aldrin's insistence, they just headed off.
And I think it was a little bit of a writing. Aldrin did inquire to Jin about, adventuring, because he was very interested on adventuring and how cool and tough you are and how he could be cool and tough. He's not very cool and tough at all, but
He'll get there.
A bunch of dorks hanging out where one dork likes the other dork, but the other dork doesn't know it. Real classic stuff.
My favorite trope. They did manage to find that boar. Aldrin attempted to attack it with a crossbow but missed, and then it kind of charged. So Jin was in hand-to-hand combat with this boar, like jumping in front of Aldrin and summoning stone armor to fight it.
I think that boar gave you a bit of trouble. It was kind of tough, and I think I reduced some of the stats a little bit just to make sure things kind of. Again, this is taking place while other things were taking place, so everything needed to be like. And I was like, oh, everyone gets 2 rounds of something happening. So I was like, this needs to be done in 2 rounds, and I just did the math real quick, and then it worked out.
Yeah, I think I got a decent attack in because Jin managed to take it out with this super cool kick. But yeah, that was sort of their day, and then she just, helped Aldrin and recovered the boar, and they headed back into town.
Yeah, but while these two were having fun, Iggy was actually stopped by one of the town guards because Sheriff Hemlock requested his assistance because Iggy is the smart one. I don't know about that one, but
probably compared to the rest of us.
Yeah, actually, this whole team isn't very smart.
Yeah, no, I think he is.
But Iggy comes from
Arkansas. It's Alkenstar, but we keep saying Arkansas.
Arkansas. The joke is that he comes from Arkansas, but it's Alkenstar, the mana waste gears and guns place. So Sheriff Hemlock needed his assistance because they believed that someone tampered with a grave.
Indeed. So yeah, in the couple of downtime days that we had, the first day Iggy was mostly again doing like shopping stuff. He met Nisk Tander at Bottled Solutions. They hung out, I guess, chatted alchemy stuff, and Nisk is going to work on some shining ammo for Iggy's rifle because Iggy is a gunslinging sorcerer, which again is very cool.
Yeah, classic. This is the player's character. Payne. He's definitely all around kind of person. He's like, what options do I have? I want all of them.
And then yeah, again, like the next day, he was going to be picking up the equipment and planned to meet with Jin later. But as you said, like he ended up being encountered by Sheriff Hemlock, who needed his expertise. So once he recovered the weapon, he was brought to the chapel, where he met with Father Xantis and Sheriff Hemlock. Xantis looked very tense because he had noticed that the tomb to Father Tobin's door, or the door to Father Tobin's tomb, was ajar. Tobin being the previous priest who I think was killed in a fire at the temple before.
Yeah. So it's like the second or the first of the great, the late
Yeah, the late unpleasantness.
The late bad stuff. There was a big town fire, which sucked ass, and then there was the serial killer, which sucked ass.
Yeah, those two things kind of combined for a rather unpleasant fog over the town. But yeah, Xantis noted that the door to the tomb was ajar after the goblin attack, and suspected that it was possibly trapped. It did look like there was some recent movement and recent activity there. So Iggy was there to help investigate and look for these traps, I think because he's probably more of a mechanical expert than any of us.
I realize that this book assumes that somebody's playing a rogue or something, or like a thief, that kind of archetype, but nobody is, and Iggy's the closest one. So he's the one. He's the one that had to go.
Yeah. Again, he's the smartest one here.
Yeah.
He knows how his rifle works, so he's clearly smarter than any of us.
Yeah.
But in the course of that investigation, Iggy was attacked by skeletons. He was able to take some shots at them, but many of the bullets just sort of like passed through them.
Yeah.
Yep.
As I was gonna say, like Iggy, like inspecting the door, like pulled it open, and then was like attacked by skeletons. I think like him and Sheriff Hemlock kind of tag team. There was like 2 skeletons.
Yeah.
And yeah, he did find out that skeletons are mostly air.
Yeah, the classic like if you try to stab a skeleton and the blade just goes through it, but this time it's a bullet.
Yeah. But I think he ended up getting a critical hit or something like that in the second round, which is pretty nice.
Yeah, he did cast Magic Weapon on his gun, which is, again, there's a reason I'm very interested in seeing where this combination of like different things goes, because he's able to cast Magic Weapon on his gun, and that made it more powerful. So he was able to take out one of the skeletons while Hemlock took down the other one.
Yeah, which I thought was really cool too, because like low-key I planned on all these everyone going to where they're supposed to be, because based on the character, but him being a sorcerer, actually a celestial bloodline sorcerer, I was like, this dude can probably take out the skeletons no problem. Like even if it takes like pain realizing that he can just like cast heal like in the wide area and like do damage to the undead because they're undead, it would have been fine.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, right? Like
I mean this was kind of cooler, but yes, that could also work. But yeah, took out those skeletons, and then they were able to do some investigating. There weren't any traps, but there were the remains of a tattered robe that possibly had some magic to it. What they did find, though, was that Tobin's remains were gone, sort of removed from the sarcophagus that they were in. Father Xantus arrived after the skeletons were defeated and sort of, reacted to seeing the body missing.
Basically fainted.
Yeah.
Like, oh, no. Oh man, that guy he's having a hard time. His ceremony was ruined. Now the bones of his dead predecessor are gone. He's just like,
bit of a rough
the
go.
remains, I should say. Yeah.
Hemlock suspected it was goblins that did it, and Iggy was able to spot some goblin footprints, but also some tracks of a medium-sized creature, which I don't know what that is. I don't know who that could be. I mean, I have a suspect now, but who knows? And then there was Fiona, who the first day of downtime was checking in on Father Xantus, and they greeted each other with their butterfly hand gesture. And during that time, Xantus mentioned the recent problems, and I think this is where we got some more information about what was going on with the fires and Snoot and all that.
Yeah, the previous day. I think like I told the story within 2 bits. Like one was like an initial bit, and the other one was like, I think she got like a more of a in-depth story from Father Xantus.
Yeah, Xantus went into some details about the Chopper, who is the serial killer Jervis Snoot, who killed the previous sheriff, Sheriff Averton. And then again described, how Hemlock was able to track him down to some sort of unholy shrine. But he also described the previous pet priest, Father Tobin, who perished in the Sandpoint fires, along with, I think it was Xantus's adopted daughter, Nualia?
No, Tobin's adopted daughter, Nualia.
Oh, okay, well then I gotta edit my notes. But Tobin's adopted daughter, Nualia, also died in the fire, who was described as the...
That's fine. I mean, I was gonna say Jin got told by like that's like two people removed now. Just like he probably believes anything.
Yeah. But Nualia was described as a planar touched Azamar, and they had both ended up perishing in this fire that happened shortly after Snoot was confronted.
Yeah.
Yeah, after learning some of this information and checking in on Xantus to make sure he was okay. This was unfortunately the day before the whole skeleton thing. But after leaving Fiona on the walk back into town towards the Rusty Dragon, encountered a child. I think Avern is what I have written here.
Yeah, all their names are stupid. Like, I should have changed them all, but it would be hard to keep track.
Yeah, encountered this child who seemed a bit jumpy and startled at a sound. And his mother apologized for how her child was acting and said that the child had been having nightmares, which Fiona kind of picked up on and was concerned, very concerned about the youths. So Fiona went to check on that family, met by the mother of Alvern, and said that she found that something had happened in the family's home. She was able to find the kid with his baby sister, but according to Alvern, he said something got his dad. So she went further, moving very cautiously, catching the smell of blood. She even saw the body of a dead dog that was killed, and then the father's limp body on the ground, with the head sort of obscured from where it was laying. She did a quick blessing symbol of Desna before moving forward to check on the father, and then she was attacked as a goblin burst out of a hole in the wall in the house. And it seemed that the goblin said, well, this goblin at least was maybe using this house to hide, or was just using it to travel through. So yeah, she was attacked by this goblin, which pretty brave for a singular goblin to try to take on Fiona. Not smart, but very brave.
I was gonna say, this is a goblin commando. He's super cool in terms of a goblin. But yeah, no, this goblin was hiding out after the attack had failed, and all the other goblins were routed. And he was stuck there for like, I don't know how many days, like 3-4 days in this closet without anything to eat. And then he went kind of mad with hunger, and then decided to attack this family's dog. Because it was so afraid of the dog, it had to kill it before he could leave, because he couldn't leave because the dog was there. Because goblins hate dogs. This was before goblins became cool in Pathfinder.
Yeah,
they were real evil before, like a little irredeemably evil.
Yeah, current goblins are like extremely cute, but they they weren't so before. They're like, are they in the core player book now? Yeah,
they're core race. They're core race. So you could, like, goblins are just like a little bit more evened out now, but before they were portrayed as enemies and pretty, chaotic little shits. So yeah, he killed the dog, and then he tried to kill the father, but then
Fiona was able to intervene.
Yes, Fiona was able to intervene, and within the tussle, she tried to stab him with, I think, her star knife.
Yeah.
That's like her holy symbol. But then she missed. But then she, due to the positioning of the goblin in the room, was standing right in front of a window. So she was able to blast him with a gust of wind. And I think it critically failed the roll. He was just ejected from the house and fell like 2 stories onto its head and just went splat.
Yep.
Which I thought was a fitting end to that goblin and its existence.
And while there was a bit of commotion outside, Fiona was able to stabilize and heal the injured man. He was still bloody, but alive. The wife returned, very thankful, and Fiona said to bring that guy to Father Xantus for further healing. She actually did manage to bring him to Father Xantus, which is where she ended up running into Iggy after the entire thing with the skeletons happened.
Yeah, I know. Father Xantus, just in such shock, was like quickly snapped out because he was needed, and was able to assist in further providing any sort of like healing or medical attention or for that the father, the Mr. Bartlett. I was like, I hate all their names. Mr. Bartlett provide assistance to that, which that was an eventful day. I think afterwards everyone kind of went back to the Rusty Dragon, and they cooked up that boar, and it was like a big feast. and the players were able to kind of recount their day. Kind of like at the GM note, like, yeah, the book had it to like everybody was there in all of these situations, and like the party was supposed to do this over a couple of days, and I was like, I don't know, we got like 4 things going on here. There's like 4, adventurers, so let's just do this all at once. Like,
yeah, let's actually, I guess we can get into that a bit. Because, again, like, I'm sure the book was written, like, the party does this thing, here's what's happening here, and I'm sure, like, the encounter with, like, the skeletons or the goblins was meant to be, like, an encounter with the whole party there. So, yeah, it sounds he kind of decided, there's 4 things here, there's 4 players, let's just split it up, but, like, I guess I'm wondering how you decided who should go where and what was more important, because I'm sure there's more stuff in the book that we didn't get to, or didn't get to yet.
Well, Iggy had to go deal with the trap because out of everyone, he's the only person with mechanical sense. I'm leaning a little bit hard on Fiona because Fiona's character chose Desna because they're playing a champion, and I was like, you're basically like the church cop equivalent, like, so like the main religion in Sandpoint, or I guess like in the Sandpoint's like pantheon, because the actual building itself is like devoted to a bunch of different religions, like in the Justice League of Glorian Gods, right? But Desna is like the main one, and so she's kind of important. Everyone sees her as like, not second to Sheriff Hemlock, but like definitely like a stabilizing force, right? So I was like, she probably needs to go and deal with the goblin, and that's this family being attacked, right? Because I think that she's more of like the hero the townsfolk like think about, right? She's like, oh, she's more in charge. She's like low-key the leader of the party a little bit. I don't think the player knows it yet, but the townsfolk really think that.
Yeah, I can see why after everything that happened.
Yeah, she's more like, she's a little bit more aligned with their views, I think, and it's like she's less quirky than the rest of you. Like,
is that the word we're going with?
Quirky. Yeah. like Iggy's smart, but he's a little socially awkward. And like Bella actually might be too flighty to be responsible about anything. And Jin is too like much of a novice to really be that kind of person. So, like, I was like,
repeatedly clumsy. So.
And repeatedly clumsy, yeah. So I was like, yes, finally a stable, capable land boss I can rely on.
Oh no, it's finally happened.
Yeah, and then Jin, I think when you guys rescued Aldrin, it was like, I made you guys roll. I was like, which one of you is the hottest? I asked, and then everyone rolled a die for some reason. And you're like, I think Jin rolled a 19, and I was like, good enough. Aldrin wants to date you now.
Did you not ask for a charisma roll there? Did we just decide to roll? Is that what?
Yeah, I don't remember asking for a charisma roll.
That might actually be what happened. We just decided to roll.
Yeah, you guys just decided to pit each other against each other because the guy was obviously rich. So like, you're like, I wanna impress the rich man. So Jin, well, Aldrin specifically is like into adventures. So like, any of you guys could have done it. All of you are badass, but like, you are the one that rolled the highest and made the most impression on Aldrin. So Jin got to do that. And then Bella was the second hottest. So so Shayless needed to hit and or try to coerce somebody into doing, obviously going behind her father's back to do that stuff. And I think that Bella was the right candidate for that one. Also, to be fair, I think that like out of the combats, it was fine because I was like, the combat situation, I kind of left it to like technically the healers, I guess, to be like, if anything happened, no one is gonna just die like poorly, right? I was just like, these guys will probably be fine. So I was just like, yeah, this will be fine.
Fair enough. Yeah, that makes sense. And I also did like ask to do a specific thing, so kind of makes sense that's where I was.
That's true. But following that night, actually, the party was interrupted by an old cranky man.
Yes, a man speaking in Tianese as he entered.
Tianese, yeah.
This man by the name of Lonjiku Kaijitsu, who is Amiko's father, who sort of barged in, demanding to know where his daughter is, ended up confronting the party until Amiko arrived, and they had an argument back and forth.
Yeah. I think he called you guys vagrants, a band of filthy vagrants, and told him to get out of town because you guys caused too much trouble. And then, like, basically was trying to tell his daughter to come with him and stop being, a sassy lady. And she's like, no, I am a sassy lady. And then hit him with a ladle, with a fish soup ladle, specifically.
Yeah, she hit him with a fish soup ladle, and he sulked off. And then, as he left, she made a snarky comment about needing a clean spoon because jackass soup wasn't on the menu tonight.
Yeah, that was pretty good. That's some good writing. Thanks, Paizo. Like, that was a time,
and possibly a setup for things to come, because we've now learned that there's sort of a rough relationship between Amiko and her father. And then after that, we get into the next session where we're getting up after the previous night's encounter. Iggy was doing some breakfast and tried using a dog slicer as a butter knife, which through some random chaos ended up with an NPC on fire. But mostly, in the morning, Sheriff Hemlock arrived and asked us to go with him to meet someone. We headed to the town hall, where we came across Mayor Kendra Deverin, and along with her was an elf by the name of Shalelu Andusona. Am I saying that right? Did I spell that right? Or Androsona? I don't know.
Andusana.
Sana, that's what it is. Okay, that's a penmanship thing on my part.
Well, I mean, it's also this is a fantasy ass name for fantasy people.
It is a remarkably fantasy ass name.
Yeah, so Shay. I'm sad that like I named Shayless Shay. But this is maybe that'll be a joke. But Shaylalu is a ranger that helps out the town of Sandpoint. She kind of goes around the area and basically she just fights goblins all day.
Mm-hmm. She was there to inform us that the goblins, though the five major goblin tribes, the five goblin tribes, they usually fight each other, but now they seem to be acting differently, a bit more united, a bit less infighting. She described some key members of the goblin tribes, but mostly was there to inform us that, they're acting strangely, acting suspiciously, moving as more of a united force.
She basically I set them as like their name and the title card shows up of them explaining who these people are. But specifically, I think Iggy was interested in our Corvus because this champion was said to have a magical longsword, which Iggy's interested in.
Yeah. And then there was Florka, who's sort of this cannibal goblin, who's only kind of liked by his own tribe. There's Randwaddle, who's chief of one of the larger tribes. Rip Nugget, who had a name that I guess Bella thought was funny, who has some influence on all the tribes. And Gugmunt and Bruff and a bunch of names that we got to put on our hit list.
I know, right? Just wanted, dead and dead, like
dead or deader,
dead, right? As well as like she let him know about Barthasmus. Damn, bro, these names. Barthasmus is a hobgoblin that apparently Shaylalu has been in many duels across their ranger ways. So there's two rangers of different races have been rangering it up in the forests.
Ooh. I ship it.
Yeah, arch enemies though, not hot enemies, just arch ones.
I don't know. It's a rivals to lovers is a very popular trope.
I don't know about this one, dog, but
in any case, Shalelu and Sheriff Hemlock wanted us to keep an eye on the town while they were going out to the larger nearby city to get some backup to deal with the goblins attacking Sandpoint.
Well, Shaylalu is going to scout ahead because she assumes where all of the goblin activity is probably coming up from Thistletop, which is like more northeast, kind of following the coast up into like I think they're called like the Nettle Woods. And then because of all of these goblin happenings, people are being attacked literally in their house by goblins. Sheriff Hemlock is like, I'm not taking any chances. I'm going to go get more reinforcements from the local city of Migmar. Migmar?
Magnamar?
That's what it's called. Magnamar. Yeah, that's the word. I'm playing too much Final Fantasy VII. I'm thinking about Midgar, but it's not that. It's Magnamar.
Yeah, and with both of them out of play, protecting the town kind of fell onto us. So Iggy was coming up with some siege tactics, looking at the town map and seeing that there were like a handful of major bridges into the city. Jin was curious about the town history because she was kind of wondering, why do goblins care about this town specifically? Fiona was going to check on that family, the Barretts, and Bella was going to check out the beach while they were in town.
You can see why Bella's not the one in charge.
So we did kind of split up, just checking different things out. Bella actually ended up, in the course of evading Shayless, she did meet someone near the remains of a lighthouse in a location called Junkers Bay. This elven woman who was watching someone just dump some stuff in the river very disapprovingly. She had a conversation with the woman and managed to get some gossipy information out of her, including a bit of info on Nualia, Father Tobin's daughter.
Yeah, she found out that, again, this is a spoiler, that Nualia had a secret child out of wedlock. And she heard of it. She's this townsfolk is a midwife and was there when the baby was born, but the baby didn't survive.
Indeed. So I don't know if that's going to be something that comes up later, but there's some new details that we've come across. But the next day, we met with Bathana, this elderly halfling, who I think works at the Rusty Dragon, who told us that Amiko was missing, and the only thing she left behind was this note in crumpled parchment, which told her, as we read the note, we found it told her to go meet her brother at the glassworks. Her brother Suto, who is a half-elf.
Which the elderly housekeeper, basically she said that like Suto is a bad troubled child, and every time he shows up, something bad happens. So she was very worried about Amiko.
Which is entirely fair, given what we found. When we came across the glassworks, we were like snooping around, trying to inspect the building, trying to find a way in. We did get some attention from the nearby townspeople who were wondering, what the heck are you guys doing over there? But we did eventually manage to find a way in, which involved a lot of trying to climb up the building.
Yeah, and then you guys ended up just breaking down the door, I think.
Pretty much. Both Iggy and Jin tried to break it down, but Fiona was able to just boot down the door. And we headed through the building, and we came across like the glass furnace, or the furnace for glassmaking, and a gruesome
the workshop. Yeah,
and a gruesome display along with a bunch of goblins and some factory staff that they had killed, including Amiko's father, who was dead and covered in like melted glass. Yeah, because the goblins are just kind of evil at this point in Galarian. So things immediately kicked off. We got into a fight with these goblins. We did strategize a bit because we were trying to think of like how to better combine our abilities, which I think is a thing that just kind of like more naturally happened because now we're playing this campaign with more experience.
You guys like are more experienced Pathfinder players. At least the group have only really played the one Pathfinder campaign with me. So
yeah, so everybody has more experience with the game now. Like I even though I played a bunch, I probably would not have strategized the same way. If I was in the very start of the previous campaign, I don't think I would have strategized the same way we did in this one. Even something just like Iggy putting magic weapon on Fiona, who was able to get in there and deal some pretty heavy damage. But yeah, we went in to attack these goblins. The goblins attacked us and tried to go for cover, doing some ranged attacks until we were able to move up on them. Some of the goblins split off to try to move through the building, like outside of the factory space, and move through the building and try to flank us. And when they came back, they returned with this buff man, Suto, Amiko's brother, who already smelled drunk and was a particularly dangerous fighter, notably a unarmed fighter, a monk. I was pretty excited to get my ninja fight on, but I got my butt kicked pretty quickly.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. I had to like make Suto in like as a character, and it worked out really well. I was like, oh cool, this dude is like, I could just make a character and they could just fight a party at this red CR. So I was like, that's kind of nice. I guess secret second tip, if you just want to have an NPC, just make a character and the numbers will work out.
I feel like Pathfinder 2nd Edition is a lot easier for the numbers work out sort of principle.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I like it a lot. But yeah, I think he immediately burnt his like focus point or whatever to do like key rush to like move across the room. I tried to do like oh yeah, we're gonna do the raging demon on these guys, and like from Akuma, and then like I think I missed, but I ended up getting a hit onto one of the characters, and I think Iggy tried to like get out of the way, but then Iggy got like roundhouse in the face and just got knocked out.
Iggy did get downed while Fiona was dealing with the last goblin. Bella was close enough to Suto that she was able to try to like pounce on him and tackle him to the ground.
Well, actually, before that, I was gonna say Bella was able to intimidate Suto, surprisingly.
Oh, yeah.
Like it was like wild. Bella's player was rolling hot that day, and so yeah, actually, you guys probably wouldn't be able. You guys had a lot of near misses if Bella didn't intimidate Suto. So like it was like all around like a team effort to take this guy down. So Bella intimidated him and then just like rolled really high on like the grapple / maneuver thing and just hopped over a table and just, you know, knocked him to the ground.
Exactly. So yeah, Bella was able to knock him prone. Jin got in there while he was prone, but ended up getting downed as he got up, despite my armor, which I guess is just useless.
We're finding that to be the case a lot. But the funniest part, Bella was on top of this dude, and then because he had it's this instance where I think last episode I said, like, you know, if characters should be able to do something, you don't have to do the math and the players will accept it. I did give it assurance, like the Suto, like the ability to just like take a 10 on a roll, and with that he was able to automatically just escape the grapple Bella put him in. And just like threw Bella basically back over the table where they were standing to the other side, and was able to, I think, trip Jin, if I'm remembering correctly, and then get up. Or maybe he tripped Jin and then punched her. I don't remember, but Jin was feeling it. And then
I think it was a flurry of blows that I got hit with.
Yeah.
And then,
as he got up the next round, I think he flurry of blows Jin, and then Jin got knocked out or knocked down.
But yeah, at that point, Iggy was able to get up, and then he saw Jin was down, and he blasted at Suto with needle darts. And Fiona was able to end the fight while throwing the enhanced star knife. I was able to sort of knock out Suto with this weapon. Even though it was a bladed weepon.
Well, she did like non-lethally, so he was going to try and run away, but then, you know, I said like, oh, you stabbed him in the leg. And he's like, I can't run away.
And with that, we were able to take him down. We did get roughed up a bit, but we did manage to take him down, and we did it non-lethally because we did want to figure out where Amiko was. And while he was getting restrained, we did check the factory, but there was no sign of Amiko. So that is a mystery for the next session to solve.
Yeah, it was totally not because it was very unclear where she was. The book. But yeah, that was a session. It was kind of cool. I would like to say that high rolls make cool stuff happen. I think that was like what I learned, especially when you're grappling a monk, which that should not happen. I mean, they're really good at not doing that, and my players showed me that anything is possible when you start rolling 19s and 20s.
I mean, yeah. I gotta get some better rolls, man. I want to have my cool ninja fight.
I mean, you did. You just lost. I mean, it was a cool ninja fight for Zuto. He was dominating, man.
That's not the same thing.
We were playing Street Fighter, dog, getting roundhouse and punched all over the place.
But yeah, I know I'm having fun with the game. I'm having fun trying to figure out this character. I think I mentioned before that I had like this 3-page backstory for her.
Yeah, I mean, it's fun to see the characters kind of evolving a little bit, or not evolving, but just like kind of coming out. So it's like, Bella being someone who gets into trouble very easily just by the nature of, who she is, and kind of like the Kitsune kind of trickster fox kind of archetype, and like, how Finn is the apparently the rock that holds the team together. Iggy's kind of like the smart, interesting, kind of awkward fellow. And Jin being the young, naive powerhouse, I would say.
Yeah, she will be the powerhouse eventually.
Eventually.
I think Fiona will be for the first little while, though. And yeah, that was it. And did we level up at the end of that session? Or am I misremembering? So. Yeah.
Yeah, you guys.
Yeah, because we fought the goblins and we fought Pseudo. So yeah, I still got to make some decisions. We were talking afterwards, and it was said kind of jokingly, but it would be very funny if we all just took various kinds of familiars for second level.
I know. It'd be like the Pokemon squad where everyone just gets a little friend.
Because the kineticist can definitely do it. I'm pretty sure... Oh, I forget whose it was, either the champion or the sorcerer, that can have a thing where they just get a familiar.
The sorcerer definitely can, and champion might be able to get Animal Companion. I don't know, but if everyone decides to do it, then I will definitely have a session where everyone just plays their animal companions off doing something. Like...
That'd be so fun. I mean, I'm pretty sure you can just get like a pet or whatever, but yes, I would like if everyone just randomly had a companion. I don't know if that's what everyone's going to do, but it would be very fun.
Yeah, it'd be pretty fun to have like everyone and their little friends. They're like the all of the adventurers are off doing something. All the little companions go off and help in some way.
Yeah, maybe that'll be a future session. But yeah, those were our last 2 sessions of this Pathfinder 2nd edition version of the Rise of the Runelords campaign. Ramon, anything else you wanted to say on these last couple of sessions with the campaign overall before we roll into the outro?
I'm having lots of fun. I think that Sandpoint is a cool place with a bunch of characters, and I really just I don't know, it's been a long time since I ran something that's pre-written, and man, it's nice not to think about like all of the NPCs and come up with names and backstories and what they want. It's really helpful for pre-written stuff to be this thorough, and I really appreciate Rise of the Runelords for existing. It's like really fun to run. If you've never run it before, check it out. It's super good and super dark and creepy and wonderful all at the same time.
Yeah, we've come across some horrific sights, but I don't know if it's been super dark as to what applies to us just yet. Certainly some of the town history stuff we've learned has been rather grim, but I don't know, I'm wondering like what's gonna happen to us that might be terrible.
It gets worse.
Oh no.
That's all I have to say. It just kind of keeps getting worse, and then it gets cool, and then it gets a little worse again, and then it gets really cool, and then it gets really worse. Like that's just how this whole campaign goes.
All right, folks. Well, if you want to hear how things get worse, then please stick around, subscribe, follow, all that stuff. Thanks a ton to everybody out there for listening and checking out the podcast. I'm going to keep mentioning this because I'm very happy about it, but we are on Spotify now, as well as other podcast platforms, as well as having an RSS feed. So if you want to check us out on other platforms, we're available there, as well as still on YouTube, which will have a more direct comment section. I do want to get into putting some like if we can do custom polls and stuff for Spotify. So I kind of want to get into doing more of those and, you know, interact with people more and see their opinions on certain things. I actually did drop a poll on the previous episode asking people what new playtest class they might be interested in. So I'll check on that and see if anybody actually voted in that, because I actually don't know where Spotify polls show up. Additionally, on this channel on YouTube, there are weekly gaming streams. Alan Wake on Thursdays. It will be every other Thursday going forward, because I will also have the Baldur's Gate 3 co-op stream with Untold Stories Project on Thursdays. And then my Baldur's Gate game on Fridays. Although I was kind of debating playing Alan Wake on the off Fridays, because I really want to play Alan Wake. And then Mass Effect Andromeda on Sundays, which is going to be wrapping up soon. There's still a lot more like personal loyalty missions to do, and I wanted to finish all of those before going into the finale. So I want to say one stream, but it might be two, depending on how long the finale is. And then after that, we'll get into some Fallout stuff. Additionally, I want to give some shout outs to people. There's a bunch of writers and creators linked below if you're on YouTube, so please go check them out. And also check out the Untold Stories Project, who have a lot of big plans coming up. And yeah, definitely check out their current and ongoing stream series on Tuesday and Wednesday and every other Thursday. But that's about it for now. Oh, I will put a link to Rise of the Runelords in the description. It is, again, in first edition, so you're gonna have to do some converting, but as we mentioned before, it shouldn't be too difficult if you just sort of especially at the lower level stuff. It shouldn't be too difficult.
Yeah. Or at least it hasn't been so far. We'll let you know in the future what kind of jerry-rigging I would have to do. But that's future Ramon's problem.
Exactly. All right. Well, for all of our glass-making GMs and players out there, just remember to keep on winning with dice, and we'll see you next time.
Bye, guys.